Hello, EkhartYoga family. Jennilee here. I'm so excited to be here with you and share my love for the Yamas. I felt very privileged to be asked to give you a little talk on it. And I love the Yamas. I love the Yamas and the Niyamas. I love all 8 limbs. But the Yamas, I feel I can really dive into with my practice because they're like right living ways. 5 qualities or 5 practices, it's 5 actions in the world, not only with the relationship with yourself, but relationship with others. The first 2 that I'd like to share with you are Ahimsa and Satya. And Ahimsa is nonviolence. And I really feel like that is if there's one Yama or Niyama to live by, for me, it's Ahimsa, nonviolence. If we can be on this earth and, not hurt anyone, that's a big feat because even, sometimes unconsciously our actions can hurt another. Sometimes it's on them because they're, from wherever they're coming from, they're feeling hurt, even though you didn't mean to hurt anyone. But nonviolence, if we can really put that into practical use every day, wake up and say, may I not hurt anyone today? All sentient beings. May I find time throughout my day to be kind and be loving and to be aware, be aware of my actions so I don't hurt anyone, So Ahimsa, nonviolence. It also works for ourselves, maybe let me love myself, let me be kind to myself, maybe, in my mind, not have hurtful thoughts, not beat myself up, and also kind to my body, do a practice that feels good for me today. Not so much the shoulds, but maybe the coulds or woulds, that's nonviolence for the self. And then Satya. So these are the first 2 I want to talk about. Satya is truthfulness, truthful to yourself, really knowing where you are in your life, hearing the intuition, so really being super truthful and soulful and deep with oneself. Also truthful with others, not lying, right? And just acting in the world from a place of, this is my truth. And if you practice Ahimsa, my truth is nonviolent, but here's my truth. And I'm living by it. I'm living my truth. Now, I start with these 2, and I asked Esther if I could do the Yamas, Yamas versus Niyamas, because there's a little tale I would like to share. And this tale came from a friend of a friend, a yogi from India. His name is Yogi Yogendra. And Yogi Yogendra told me this story. He came into my studio a couple of years ago and shared this story with my trainees. And he said, in a lot of the sutras, it's Ahimsa, then Satya. And most of the time, and especially here in the West, we see that, Ahimsa, Satya. But in some texts, it's Satya, Ahimsa, right? So those 2. And he said this is what the yogis debate about in India. What comes first, nonviolence or truthfulness? We know that everything is hand in hand and everything weaves together. But he's told me this tale, and the tale goes like this. There was a farmer, okay? And the farmer was toiling his soil. He's working, and he's doing the work to take care of his farm. And he's out on a sunny day, and he's enjoying his life, but he's working, right? All of a sudden, he looks up, and he sees a cow coming down the lane, okay? And the cow comes down the lane, walks past him through his open gate, and walks onto his farm, okay? Probably in a back pasture somewhere to hang out with the other cows. So the farmer says, oh, okay, no, that's good. All right, he watches it happen. He goes back to working, all right? Sweating, drinking water, he's working. A few hours later, okay, his farmer neighbor comes down the road, irate, frustrated, angry, stomping, yelling, and he says, have you seen my cow? Have you seen my cow? It's time for it's his day. It's time for his slaughtering. Today is his day to die. He's going to be slaughtered. And the one farmer, okay, he grows his vegetables and his potatoes and whatever he's doing, he says, okay, well, I practice nonviolence, Ahimsa, and I practice Satya, truthfulness. So how does he go about this with his neighbor? So he says this sentence, this was his sentence. I did see your cow, and he walked on by. Okay, or her, she walked on by. I did see your cow, truthful, and she walked on by, truthful. But in that truthfulness, he was able to also practice nonviolence, save the cow. Now that's a fine line of being honest and practicing nonviolence, how to be truthful and not hurtful. right? So it's actually an art. It's a practice to cultivate. Loving kindness, but not lying, being honest, especially with your loved ones. But how do you do it in a way that you also are kind, right? So I love that. Satya and Ahimsa. What comes first? The other 3 yamas that we're going to talk about, because we're going with the 5 from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. The third one we're going to talk about today is Asteya. Okay? And Asteya is non-stealing. Okay? Really not taking what is rightfully yours, what's been given to you, right? And we practice that by being honest, truthfulness. So you can see how they all, weave together. Not stealing, because stealing is harmful. Stealing is a bit of a violence. Okay, but that practice builds upon and incorporates the first 2. So non-stealing. Don't take anything that doesn't belong to you, that hasn't been given to you. There's enough to go around. I always feel like there's enough to go around. And I feel like we can always be making more, sharing more, creating, giving. I always feel like there's so much here on this Mama Earth for us to cultivate and give and share, that we don't have to take and steal, coming from a place of lack. I'm a big fan of coming from a place of fullness, right? So no stealing. And that goes for quotes. It's always giving credit where credit's due. I feel like you're not stealing anyone's craft or their hard work with lyrics or quotes. As a yoga teacher, when I put a quote down on social media, I always want to give credit where credit's due. So I always feel that also is the practice of Asteya, non-stealing. Then we come into Brahmacharya. And Brahmacharya is a big topic that people could debate for a long time, because it kind of brings something up sometimes. Because if we were living in the Himalayas in a cave or in an ashram, it would mean celibacy, right? Abstinence, okay? But in an urban yoga setting, like we are urban yogis, we live in the modern world, it's moderation of the senses, right? So really being aware of what we take in, but even if it's been freely given, you go to a buffet, freely given, and how much do you consume? So this could be like for consumerism, like how much do you consume versus moderation of the senses, only, as much as you need, feeling intuitive, like, okay, I feel full. I don't need another piece of cake. I don't need more than my body actually, I don't, the wanting and the needing. My body is full. It feels good. I had a nice salad, maybe I had 1 piece of bread and it feels good. I don't need to have 3, 4, 5 pieces of bread, because that would be, indulging maybe too much. Every once in a while, it's good to indulge, but moderation of the senses. That's why it's nice to take 1 day a week to fast, right? To train yourself to, I can do this. I can moderate my senses, because if you moderate one sense, all the other senses wake up. Right? So if we can actually fast 1 day and slow down the eating and tasting, we might be able to hear more, see more, right? So that, working with the senses. Some days not listening to the radio on the way to work. Maybe moderating that 1 day a week. I'm not going to listen to the radio to and from the work. I'm actually going to be quiet, and you might notice with your eyes, with your ears, the birds, the eyes, the surrounding environment. Right? So picking times in your life where you can draw back, moderating your senses, right? So good for the modern yogi. And that also goes for your sex life. You could always draw back and use that energy for something else. You know what I'm saying? So if we're not giving so much output in one area of our life, we can draw back and notice where else we might wake up. That's always good to wake up. The 5th yama today that we're going to talk about is Aparigraha. And that is basically almost like non-stealing, but it's non-greediness. So it's greedlessness, right? So you can see how things are weaving and building and layering, because greedlessness is saying, I have enough. I don't have to come from a place of lack, a small place where I want and I need, and I'm going to take what doesn't belong to me. I'm feeling like a greedy nature, It's okay to not have, okay? It's okay to have desire too. Be like, I want that over there. But the wanting, the desire is like, that's a fun place to be. Like, I want that. Like, I love my pants, my yoga pants, right? So I want a new pair. But if that month the finances don't allow it, that wanting is not going to become like, I need to have those pants. If I don't have those pants, I will be incomplete in some way, right? And because then it gets small, and that might lead to the stealing, you know what I'm saying? So that greediness can lead to other actions, right? Maybe to violence, because all of a sudden I want these pants, and what will I do to get them, right? Versus, I want them. It feels good to have a desire, and in 2 months I'll get them, or 3 months, okay? Or maybe these pants aren't for me this time around. She'll come up with a new print in a couple months anyway that I can maybe want those too, right? So greedlessness, feeling really the practice of feeling full, actually cultivating a practice of fullness. So those are the 5 yamas, okay? And again, talking about how they can weave and layer and build and swirl around each other, okay? Ahimsa is nonviolence. Satya, truthfulness. Asteya, non-stealing. Brahmacharya, moderation of the senses. And Aparigraha, greedlessness. As you go further in your practice of the 8 limbs, you'll see how the yamas actually support the niyamas. So we have these observances and these self-restraints. They help us with our right way of living, right? So we can feel good. We can feel good as a yogi walking on this earth, right? A steward of peace, love, and joy, of happiness, of wholeness, right? Of union, of yoga. I thank you so much for tuning in today. This is great that you're learning your yamas and your niyamas and all 8 limbs of the Raja Yoga system. I'm so happy to be here to share with you my passion, and I thank you for listening. Have a great day. Namaste.